Do we like Colin Bridgerton or do we not like Colin Bridgerton? Is he a rake? Okay, so if you're like me, your entire For You page and every social media that you consumed ever since Thursday, or even before Thursday, have been utterly, completely consumed by Bridgerton. And if you're like me, an avid Bridgerton fan, you have a lot of opinions. So today, what we're going to be doing is diving into Colin's character to see if we can unravel a little bit of what we can anticipate for the next part of season 3, and I guess make a character judgment on if we like Colin or not like Colin, right? Okay. So ever since the series has aired, there's been a consensus online that a lot of people don't really like Colin's character and he's giving everyone the ick. I can totally agree with that because on my first watch of it, I kind of felt really icky, but then I did watch it at midnight and I was half asleep. So I did watch it a couple times over. Okay. However, through these multiple episodes, the 4 episodes, Colin's complex internal struggles with his insecurity is shown, but it's been overshadowed by the side plots, the new characters we have, as well as the deviation between the book's timeline and the show's timeline. However, to really understand Colin's character, we have to really dig deep into his insecurity because that's what drives his character, right? And unlike a lot of other romance novels, Bridgerton is known for its multi-dimensional characters, and some people just don't like Colin because not just because of his flaws, but also because he's not your typical romance lead. He will eventually get to that, I guess, but he starts off as someone you would not really be attracted to, and you could also argue that he's not someone that you'd be attracted to. The book, a lot of people find him really icky in the book as well, but that's another thing. And perhaps Penelope, we the audience also have placed Mr. Bridgerton on an unrealistic pedestal. Alright, so the book and the show aim to showcase Colin's multifaceted personalities. And from the previous season we have watched, as well as the first portion of season 3, it really laid out his dilemma with said vulnerability, right? And I'm really excited for this because the nuance and the character growth that Colin goes through will enhance the depth of the relationship he has with Penelope in the second half of the season, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. And I don't think it's right for us to completely judge Colin's character right now solely based on the first portion of the season, because Bridgerton's a slow burn, and just like how the other 2 seasons, we couldn't really have judged it if it was midway through, especially season 2. If we were to watch season 2 to I don't know, it has 6 episodes I think, so till the 3rd episode and you're oh, okay, then you're not gonna like the series. You have to really watch it through the end, I guess, right? So it's not fair really to judge the character just yet because the season hasn't fully developed yet. Alright. But within the 4 episodes that has been released, I believe, me personally, that the show has established Colin's insecurity, and it has made him compensate to adopting a persona to fit societal expectations, really masking who he really is inside. And with the help of his mother, Violet, and Penelope, at the end of episode 4, he's come to the realization that the mask that he, has on is not really who he is, and that's not who he wants to be anymore. So let's start off with the self-categorization of Colin in the book, and basically how we're shown Colin's character in the book. What's the book? Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which is the Pollen book. I really like that book, actually. But it's Friends to Lovers. I'm a sucker for Friends to Lovers. Okay, so when we're first introduced to Colin in the book, this video is going to go mostly with the show, but I just wanted to establish what Colin is characterized in the book, just so we have a starting point. In chapter 1, when he talks about himself, or the monologue before he talks about himself, the book writes that the Ton thought of him as a charming rogue and nothing else. So I want us to pay particular attention to the term rogue. I guess we don't really use it as much on our modern contemporary vocabulary, But the term rogue, like, you can go rogue, you can go crazy, like, you do something really bad if you're, like, going rogue, right? So he's a charming rogue, meaning that, like, let's just look at the Cambridge Dictionary meaning of what a rogue is. So the Cambridge Dictionary says, a rogue is a person who behaves in a way that's not expected nor normal, often in a way that causes harm. Right. So this description aligns really well with Colin's portrayals in the first episodes of season 2, where he's basically, like, a little bit, I don't know, of a rake, something that, like, is not really good for his character. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that, but the question that I really want to understand with my analysis here is that how did this happen? Like, how did he, someone who a little bit was more idealistic and, like, more like Penelope, turn into, like, this, like, fuckboy energy, really weird, like, icky frat boy image that we have in season 3? Season 3, and it's might be closely related to this transformation of his is closely linked to his reoccurring insecurity that stems from a perceived lack of purpose. So this theme is vividly illustrated in the same paragraph in chapter 1, where he was just contemplating about his place in society and in life, and he says, although his family loves him unconditionally, he contemplates his role within his family and in the world in general, and this is what he says. Anthony would forever be remembered in the family trees as the 7th Viscount Bridgerton. Benedict would live through his paintings that are now hung in the National Library after he's long left the earth. But Colin had nothing. He wanted something more than fun. He wanted purpose. He wanted a legacy. So in this passage, it really conveys that Colin's longing for something greater of a purpose and like wanting a larger legacy compared to his brothers, and he kind of feels like not great about himself, right? But we can see that there's a nod to this original quote made in season 4, but because of the timeline changes from the book to the show, Colin's, like, purpose is portrayed differently. So whatever this portion of the book was establishing, it's shown a little bit differently in the book, right? So because in the book, the order of marriages goes from Daphne, Anthony, Benedict, and Colin, with significant years between each marriage. However, in the show, it condenses everyone to, like, a year after each other. So, like, Daphne, Anthony, and then we skip Benedict, and then we're going to Colin, right? And in this instance, Benedict is still a bachelor, meaning that the quote doesn't directly apply to it, but there's still a nod of it, like this instance in the show as well. So in season 3, episode 1, at around, like, the 34-minute, like, mark, how, like, Netflix does it, Benedict in the show, who's not yet an established artist, like, none of his stuff are hung in the National Gallery yet, who's still a bachelor, temporarily takes on responsibility of managing the estates and the accounts, while Anthony was on his honeymoon. And upon Anthony's return, the eldest of the 3 Bridgerton brothers share a drink. And then when they were doing this, Benedict says, "In truth, I enjoyed having a purpose, whereas now you're back, I'm not certain what I'm supposed to do." This line basically captures the essence of the original quote, reflecting the character's ongoing search for purpose and identity. And in the same scene, Colin is, like, I guess, like, they're kind of, like, agreeing with Benedict, although, like, he's not the one in charge of the estate, so he's, like, going through his own thing as well. And it, like, within that moment, Anthony's like, "Congrats, man, you're a ladies' man now, everybody loves you." Actually, the actual quote is, "And you were invited here to congratulate your many admirers," which Colin doesn't really, like, think is a great thing, I guess, because he's like, "I'm not certain that should cheer me." So in this instance, we can see how, like, Colin has succeeded in kind of doing well in society, but he still hasn't found the purpose that he is, like, living for or wants to, like wants his life to be about. So that's where that is. There's this, like, insecurity that I want to establish, that Colin, like, really wants to find a purpose in his life, and he hasn't yet. And because he hasn't found a purpose in his life yet, he's really compensating it by I guess putting on an act, being a ladies' man, getting that validation with his insecurity. You can do a psychoanalysis thing about that too, of how, like, yeah, sorry, unrelated about that. But how that manifests in the show is in episode 4 of season 3. Colin's mom, Violet, states that you've always been one of my most sensitive children. You're always aware of what others need and are trying to be helpful. Sorry. Offering a joke to lighten the mood, and you rarely put yourself first. So, she's like, his mom's like, you always live for other people. But living to please other, I imagine, can be weary at times, painful perhaps, so I don't blame you for putting on armor recently. We'll dive deeper into the latter portion of the quote, but I really wanted to focus on the portion of where she says, but living to please others, I imagine, can be weary at times, painful perhaps. So this portion of the quote that she talks about, I guess, can be really reflected into him in the earlier seasons, before he puts on this armor, for like really living for other people and then kind of not really getting what he wants back. And I guess this manifests in his love and attraction for Maria, the Featheringtons' cousin, and his need for social approval. So I guess there can be a deeper analysis of whether or not Marina is a representation of society's acceptance of him, because it's evident in season 1, especially episode 8, where when he was about to propose to Marina, he tells his mom, no one ever takes me seriously except Marina. Penelope's there, bro, what the fuck? Okay. But there's this whole other argument about how he doesn't feel like he's deserving of Penelope as well, but like that's another whole other thing. But we're only going to be talking about him and his like internal turmoil, I guess. So he wanted someone that would accept him, I guess, in that sense, to the point where he was like, I give you flowers all the time, but like, do you want tomatoes? He says this in episode 5. I'll give you tomatoes next time, just being like quirky and stuff. But she ends up marrying Philip Crane for other reasons. On like a side note, I guess, I really wanted to mention about the tomato talk, of how he tells Maria that, oh, I want to give you tomatoes because I always get you flowers, because he wants to be like quirky and different. And Penelope says, she tries to interject herself into conversation by saying, tomatoes are good in Greece. And both of them, Marina and Colin, just kind of ignores her completely, I guess. This is recording. Yeah, so there's that moment where he like really tries to win the approval of Marina, but because of circumstance and him rushing and being a fool, he was going to marry Marina, but he ends up not marrying her. And she eventually marries Philip Crane for other reasons, and but he's still not really over her. And when he comes back to meet Marina in season 2, he finally meets Philip Crane, kind of sees how well-versed of a man he is, as well as like him trying to reconnect with Marina, but Marina's like, grow the fuck up, like I'm not here to save you. I don't really want you. You're not realistic. You're not the man I want. Like, her quote is like, you cannot find happiness with me. Don't look in the past. Look to who you are in the future. And I think he took this in a way of like, you're too childish for me. And as the audience, I think we're looking at it in the perspective of Marina telling him, there are people who love him. You should go seek people who love him, because that's what she directly says in season 2. But he takes it as, you're really not manly enough for me. And that manifests with him going abroad again to Greece, which is ironic because Penelope's the one that told him to go to Greece, and he does go to Greece. And he comes back in season 3, where he becomes a rogue from his broken heart. Very stereotypical of like men who hearts gets broken and becomes like a fuckboy. So when he comes back, he really tries much more to assimilate into what society deems of him as like a man. I think in season 1, he tells Anthony that he's not one to want to go to brothels or to seek women of the night, and he really truly loves Marina, and then Marina like rejects him. So he comes back out and he's like, all right. When I mean reject him, not the fact that like she had to marry someone else, but her really being like, I don't really want to be friends with you, you're not, worthy. I think he took it that way. And when he comes back, he becomes basically what his 2 elder brothers are like, and how most men in the ton are, which are, I guess, rakes, right? And this, I guess, is illustrated in the instance where in season 3, when the ton is going to one of the members' library, like it's a library scene where they were all in the library reading books, and Colin's friends tell him, perhaps you want to grace us tomorrow night with your presence. We are in the pursuit of some revelry. But Colin's like not really in the mood. He like looks at Penelope, but then he sees her with Lord forgot his name. Delblig. The other guy, the other love interest. He was like, okay, sure, I guess I will join you with going to the brothel tomorrow. And when that scene progresses later on, when he's at the brothel, he's really like no longer in the mood, or he was never really in the mood, or was not really like enjoying himself, I guess. And I guess that's just showing that like he's more of a, I saw someone talk about on the internet about how he's a demisexual. He really needs to find a connection with people to really fall in love. But I don't know how well of an argument you can make about that. My argument here are not completely solid either. This is just my interpretation, or what I like to believe Colin is like. But he's just like, actually, maybe this is not what I want, and come to the realization that like, oh, okay. And I guess my point that I'm trying to make here is really established in the scene where his boys are having some locker room talk, and they're talking about how their adventures with women in different countries, and they're also like forcing him to tell about his like tales that he has done throughout like his travels, and he talks about the Contessa. And in this instance, okay, here is the actual quote. Right, so during the debriefing with the boys about their conquest over the years, Colin initially participates, recounting his encounter with the Countess. But when he was pressed for details, he starts by saying, well, a gentleman must keep some things to himself, when they were like, tell us details, we want all the details. And his friends were like, I don't see any gentlemen here, none of us are gentlemen, what the fuck, and Colin replies by saying like, do you guys like not value love, like the one thing that's genuine, like of genuine significance in our lives? Love, like you guys are not gonna give a crap about love. And then he waddles his way back home, and in that sad scene where like he flops onto his bed, he's just disappointed and sad and hopeless. And this is in episode 4, like the middle of episode 4. And I guess that's when it fully settles, I guess, to him that like maybe him trying to impress society is not really going to fulfill him, and that's not his purpose. The purpose portion of this thing I think is going to be explored in the second part of season 3, which should be, spoiler alert, his writing. The writing in season 3 doesn't do it justice. If you read the book, his writing is amazing. But this is all about him getting over his insecurity. And I guess he's realizing that this is not what he wants to do, tying back to what his mother says about, I do not blame you for putting on armor recently, but you must be careful that the armor doesn't rust and set so that you might be never able to take it off. So basically, after that, him flopping on the bed, talking to his mom is like, you're my sensitive child, you're putting on an act, I don't want you to put in this act for too long, you're gonna hurt yourself, make sure you're making the right decisions. That's when he basically realizes, this is not me. It's not what I want. And here we can think about Penelope as a catalyst for Colin's self-acceptance, because despite his insecurity fueled by societal expectations, he attempts to maintain a masked version of himself, trying to navigate the world. But the thing is, he looks so immature. But his love for Penelope kind of shines through. Sorry, I'm like reading off the essay I wrote. I'm a college student, so I write things like an academic paper, which is not great for like this kind of medium, but scratch that. So, his internal struggles, where he declares, "I would not court Penelope" in season 2, contradicts the moments of him like longing and contemplating and like looking into the like abyss and being like, "Oh my god, Penelope," or like just like sneaking and taking a look at her. And that's a lingering question that basically is like put into his head after their kiss. And yeah, just to reiterate what I've said previously, I'm just going to read off what I've written. His mother's advice about his armor resonates with him because, as previously confessed to his friends, he voiced his frustration about the charade, asking, "Are we not bored of all of this?" This theme of defying societal pressures is further emphasized in episode 4, at the 4-minute mark, where he admits to Penelope, "I spent so long trying to feel less, trying to be the kind of man society expects me to be, and for a moment I thought I had succeeded." That's more eloquently. Okay, I can write eloquently, okay? It's just when I talk, it just comes out as garbage. However, he continues, "But these past few weeks have been full of confounding feelings, highlighting the disruption Penelope brings to his carefully constructed persona. Even societal expectations cannot keep him entirely away, as shown as when he pushes through the social niceties with Bridgerton fashionably late, right? And his friends are like, "It's not worth it. We're gonna get drinks." And he's like, "No, I'm still gonna go find Penelope Featherington." So I guess that's my character analysis of like Colin. Yeah, I guess like this whole like first portion of it is basically trying to figure out his insecurities and trying to establish it in a way. This is all like freestyle now. Like I have no notes for this, because I didn't really draw a conclusion. Sorry. Of, where was I at? Of, like, his personal journey through his insecurity and finding his purpose and Featherington. I hopefully, like, they don't mess that up or keep a lot of portions of that in the show, because I think that was the biggest thing that really made me enjoy the book, was that not only did they find love, but they also found passion. Not passion for each other, but passion for things that they really liked, which was travel and writing. And their bond over that is really cute, and I think it's a very healthy relationship where people bond over things that are not just each other for you to have a sustained relationship. And I really hope they keep that. And I guess the Rake persona is, you should, I guess, look at it not in a modern light, but more in the sense of he really was just trying to fit in, not to like excuse him or anything, but just to bring complexity to his character. Of that was kind of expected of him to be this kind of like, you know, ladies' man image, which I don't think is truly who Colin is. Because yeah, he bantered with Penelope and all of that. I don't have solid opinions yet, I guess, too. Like, next month, after we watch season 3's part 2, we'll have more definite answers to it, I guess. But yeah, I guess the biggest conclusion is that Marina was like society that rejects him, so he basically becomes this persona that he doesn't want to be, and then he comes back to realizing that Penelope and who he is really inside, and what Penelope represents is where he finds true happiness. So I guess that's really my conclusion. This is definitely open-answered. It's open-answered. I don't know, I'm excited to read I have to read Benedict's book. I have not read Benedict's book yet. I'm excited for the new season, not season, the second part, and then we have 2 years to wait for the next one, which is kind of sad, but that's fine. Yeah, other opinions I have, and I probably might want to make a video, is how they really modernized this season, which I don't really appreciate as much, and also a character analysis of Penelope herself. And I guess with Penelope, there's a lot more, rather than like context from the book, it's much more angles, like cinematography angles, which is really cool, that I didn't really grasp until I like rewatched it. So I would like to do an analysis over that too, but I still do have my summer classes to study for. Yeah. That's really it. We'll take our time. We have like a month left to the next part. But that is my conclusion. Thank you for listening to me yap. I really enjoyed this. My palms were itching because I was so passionate and angry. And not angry, but just like really passionate about writing this. Also, the other thing about how they dulled down Colin's writing pisses me off a lot too. So definitely I can make another video of my other thoughts I have about the season compared to the book. Yeah, but thank you again for listening to me yapping.